I never believed the strange noises in my apartment were anything more than old pipes and settling walls. The building was nearly 80 years old, and when I moved in, the landlord simply warned me that it had character. For the first few weeks, life felt normal. But every night around 2 in the morning, I heard faint scratching sounds coming from somewhere inside the walls. At first, I assumed it was mice and ignored it. As the days passed, the scratching became more frequent and unsettling. Sometimes it sounded like something moving slowly through the walls. Other times, it sounded almost deliberate, as if someone were dragging their fingers across wood. I bought traps and searched for signs of rodents, but there were none. The noises continued every single night. One Friday evening, I returned home from work and immediately noticed that my kitchen light was on. I was certain I had turned it off before leaving. Then I noticed one of the dining chairs slightly out of place. The changes were small, but they made me uneasy. I tried convincing myself that I had simply forgotten. The next morning, I decided to test my memory. Before leaving for work, I took photographs of every room in the apartment. That evening, I carefully compared the photos to what I saw. Most things looked identical, but a cereal box on the kitchen counter had clearly been moved. The realization sent a chill down my spine. I checked every door and window, but everything was locked. There were no signs of forced entry anywhere. That night, I struggled to sleep. Around 2 in the morning, the scratching returned, sounding closer than ever before. Then came a soft thump, followed by 3 slow taps from inside the wall behind my bedroom. Tap, tap, tap. The following day, I bought a small security camera and placed it in the hallway. Late that night, my phone received a motion alert. When I checked the live feed, nothing seemed unusual. Assuming it was a glitch, I went back to sleep. The next morning, however, I reviewed the footage. At exactly 3:17 a.m., a dark shadow moved across the top corner of the screen. The footage was blurry and difficult to understand, but something had definitely triggered the camera. I showed the video to a co-worker, who suggested it might have been an insect near the lens. His explanation sounded reasonable, but it didn't ease my fears. Over the next week, several more alerts appeared. Most showed nothing unusual until one recording captured something terrifying. A narrow section of the hallway wall slowly shifted outward and then closed again. The movement lasted only a few seconds, but there was no doubt about what I had seen. A hidden panel existed inside the wall. The next day, I inspected the hallway carefully and eventually found a nearly invisible seam beneath layers of paint. There was no handle or latch, and pushing against it accomplished nothing. Disturbed by the discovery, I contacted the landlord. He claimed the building had undergone many renovations and suggested it was probably an old maintenance access point. Something about his response felt strangely dismissive. For days, I couldn't stop thinking about the hidden panel. Then one night, I finally discovered the truth. While reviewing footage from the security camera, I saw the panel slowly open. A pale hand emerged first, followed by an arm. Seconds later, a thin man crawled out of the wall. I watched in horror as the stranger quietly entered my kitchen and opened the refrigerator. He calmly ate some of my food, as though he belonged there. After several minutes, he returned to the hallway and disappeared back through the hidden panel. My entire body went numb as I realized a man had been secretly living inside my walls. The next morning, I contacted the police and showed them the footage. They immediately took the situation seriously and accompanied me back to the apartment. After examining the hidden panel, they discovered a concealed latch and opened it. Behind the wall was a narrow passageway stretching deep into the building. The officers entered first with flashlights. Inside they found blankets, food containers, water bottles, batteries, flashlights, and a makeshift mattress. Someone had clearly been living there for a long time. Then they discovered something even more disturbing. Hidden among the belongings were hundreds of photographs of me. Some showed me sleeping, eating, working, and watching television. Others appeared to have been taken through tiny holes drilled into the walls. The oldest photos dated back to when I first moved into the apartment. The realization made me sick. Although the police searched the hidden passageways thoroughly, the man was nowhere to be found. Investigators later discovered a network of concealed spaces connecting different parts of the building. Some led to storage rooms, while others connected to maintenance shafts. Whoever lived there knew the building incredibly well. After several days of investigation, police identified the man as a former maintenance worker who had once been employed at the property. After losing his job and falling on hard times, he had apparently begun living inside the hidden spaces. Other tenants reported missing food, strange noises, and unexplained disturbances that suddenly made sense. I moved out shortly afterward and stayed in a hotel while the investigation continued. Weeks later, police finally captured the man in an abandoned warehouse. He claimed he never intended to hurt anyone and only stole food when necessary. But that explanation brought little comfort. Even now, whenever I hear a faint scratching sound inside an old building, I remember the pale hand emerging from the wall and the horrifying realization that for months I had never truly been alone.